So, welcome to episode 3 of the Spark, the Climb, the Ascendancy with Erin. And today I have one of every guest to me is the most special human being. So you'll probably hear that on every talk track where I'm like, this is the most spectacular person. But Felicia Connor means the world to me. And she's actually the inspiration of starting a podcast. This is something that's been on my heart for, 2+ years. I think we met in the fall of 2021.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And she was like, you should podcast. And it's taken me almost 3 years, 2.5 years later, to actually just get the courage to have a voice, put a message out there. And my whole purpose of this podcast is to have an engaging conversation. I think every human being has a unique perspective and something to add to the collective. So I think that's where the magic is in these conversations. It's not about who's the expert, because I think oftentimes people then give their power away to, oh gosh, this person knows so much more than me, versus what do I know and what do I have to share? So that's really the inspiration behind the Spark, the Climb, the Ascendancy, is to give everybody a voice, to tap in. Everybody has an importance and lens, and my goal is to share that, and for also to remind people that they have the answers within them, that they can tap in. You don't need to look external to yourself to find the answers. You hold that within. So without further ado, in my long introduction, please welcome Felicia to my podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I have to say that introduction gave me cold chills. I absolutely love that idea of giving everyone a voice. I truly believe that too. When we start bucketing people into different buckets, that's what you do when you bucket things. When you put people into different buckets, and you're saying, "Oh, but my experience is this, and it's somehow more important than your experience," or "I have done this, like gone to graduate school, have done whatever, so now my view is more important than yours," then we start silencing people, and that's not going to benefit any of us. But anyways, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. You have an incredible voice to share, I think, with the world. I think some of the best conversations were always like, we should record this as a podcast. And so I made her come on because I was like, we should record this as a podcast. Because I think it's just opening the dialogue. Like, I have no agenda. This is completely in flow for me. What's meant to come through, what's meant to be shared with the world. I think it's just important to have that engagement in that conversation. And I want to give a voice to every person, because nobody should be silenced. We all are creations from the divine. And we're here to remember that. And I think that's really my mission, is how do I help people remember that they are an emanation of Source, God, the divine, and here to actualize us on that earth at this time. And people have very important roles. So yeah, we're going to have fun today. So
yes.
I'm like, you get to, what's on your heart right now? Like, what are things that are on the way on your mind that maybe you haven't shared, or you have held back, I think, in fear of just maybe what other people think, or is this an unpopular opinion, or, I'd love to just have a really open dialogue with you.
Oh, wow. So much. So we'll see what we get to today. I think there's so much. And just to circle back to what Erin was saying, like a little bit like, who am I? And just a little bit about me. So as Erin said, I'm Felicia Connor. And by day, my day job is an instructional designer. And by my heart and passion, not that I'm not passionate about being an instructional designer, but I am an inspiring author. I'm working on my first novel right now in fiction realm, fiction genre. I am also a podcaster, like Erin said. I had a podcast. I haven't added it to it in about a year, but it was called Here with Felicia Connor, where I gave a platform to women who had experienced violence, abuse, and different types of mental health and internal struggles so that they could share their stories, how they overcame, to
Mm.
hopefully inspire others. Right now, though, the podcast I have still on a regularly occurring basis, we just hit 40,000 downloads, is Two Chicks in a Horror Flick. Totally just fun. I like scary movies, and me and my friend talk about scary movies. And then just who I am as a person. I am Jewish, so I'm an advocate for educating people on Judaism. I'm an advocate for people educating everyone on wherever they come from. That's why I really also love what you're doing, Erin. So whatever it is that's your lived experience, because what happens when we don't understand, that could cause fear, that causes othering, which can
Yeah.
could lead down a very bad path if we're doing that to people. Also, a huge advocate for children, being a survivor of child sexual abuse myself. I'm a huge advocate in bringing awareness and donating to those who have dedicated their lives to helping stop that. And my last thing I'll say, which totally aligns with Erin, is my life intention is to make everyone feel seen, valued, heard, and not alone. And so
Mm.
any way that I can impact people's lives where they at least feel that from me, is my goal.
Well, I get to feel that from you because she's one of my great teachers and people I call on to for wisdom. I think we're all here to help each other elevate and to be open and receptive to that. I think ongoing learning, you definitely help bring me higher. So I am forever grateful for our friendship. I have nothing but gratitude. So I'm excited to just, yeah, explore and have conversation about just, yeah, what's on your heart? Like, what do you feel like needs to be shared into the world
Your
today?
listeners are like, Felicia, so what's on your heart? Erin asked you. Thank you
No.
for bringing me back. I appreciate that. Oh gosh. Well, you had mentioned being scared to share. There is a lot I don't share. I do share on my page, but I want to do more like you are. You are so like the most important thing I am is Erin's friend. So that is, I love Erin, and everything you're doing inspires me so much, because there's a lot of times I just want to jump on and share my thoughts, but people can be so cruel on social
Mhm.
media, and it's scary. It's a really scary place, even with everything going on in the world now. Even if I just post like a Shabbat Shalom, I have to be prepared to get somebody who's going to comment something terrible, just because I'm Jewish. Has nothing to do with like current events. It's just like just a nice welcome for Shabbat, which is celebrated every Friday. And I have to be prepared for that. And so it's very scary. I think with when there's certain things that my voice has really grown over the years, and that is anything with child advocacy. I have shared my story of abuse and healing for many, many years. It's been a long road. It happened when I was 11. So it's just been a long road. And so anything with my mental health struggles, how my life shaped after experiencing abuse, my search for healing. I am very comfortable sharing all of that. And I think because it seems that if somebody was to leave a hateful comment regarding that, it would be like an eye roll. Like,
You're like, wow, you just have a problem with you,
yeah.
which is hard because I think that's a reality is like everything. That's, I think, one of the hardest lessons to learn is like whatever people are putting out is really a reflection of them internally and not you. But it is such like counterintuitive, I think, to everything we know and are and have learned in this lifetime of like, how do you just tune out that noise? And I think we've created so much intolerance where people just want to cancel other people because we can't just respect, like, we're all the same because we all come from source. Like our bodies, yes, they may look differently. Yes, we may have different religious, views, whatever. But really at the core of who we are as beings, we're the same. And it's like, how do we get to that unity or that oneness and not so much separation? Because the more we create that divide, it keeps us from remembering who we are.
Yes. Why? How can we get to a place where people naturally want to do the research for themselves? And this is regarding anything, any topic you can put on the table. Where do we get to a point where you can see somebody post something or share something where you go, is this true? And be curious about learning more. So making those decisions for yourself, no matter what it is. And also removing this fear of people that people have to be wrong. There was something I was talking to you about before, Erin, where I look forward to being wrong, or I see it, maybe I see it as a gift or a joyful opportunity. And the reason I say that is because I do my research and I love to learn. I have a master's degree in religious studies. You see books all around. I just love it. That's me. I don't know what kind of personality trait that is, but I love to
I love it.
I would be in school forever.
I would too. You and I think that's where we connected. I was like,
that's where I need to be.
Like, I love it. I like soaking in the knowledge.
And some people don't. And so, but that's fine. You don't have to want to do that. But, being wrong. That's what I was saying. People maybe make a decision, a heated decision. They see something and it affects them. And it probably comes from a compassionate place, because if they think this is true, it's upsetting and they want to share it with the world. So they just share it. They just take it at face value. Maybe because it comes from someone they typically trust, but that person could also be wrong or misinformed. It's not a bad thing to be wrong and to share something and then somebody say, when you find out, okay, this is why it's a joy. Okay, guys, thanks for going on this road with me. The reason it's a joy for me, or like a welcomed opportunity, is because I think a certain way. Someone shares something with me, challenges my perspective. And if it changes my mind, I have learned something new. And now I am able to share something that's even more true. And I don't mind going, oh, wow, I was wrong about that. And now I know more. That excites me, that knowledge. But what I see now is people, once they make a statement, they're too terrified to say that they're wrong. So now they are on this mission to do whatever they can to prove that they are right. And it just goes deeper and deeper down the spiral. That's been on my mind.
I love that, because I think it's very prevalent in our society today of, like, I think kind of a couple things that came to mind for me is like, number one, like having a perspective on something or an opinion that doesn't become you. I think part of what also goes on is we get way over identified with our, like, oh my God, it's tied to me. Like, again, on a very spiritual level, that's very egoic. Like I identify with this, this opinion, and I can't keep myself open to the fact that there's 8 billion other people on this planet, and there's 8 billion other perspectives that are meant to be shared. And they're all not necessarily going to match mine, as well as, to your point, like, I think being willing to be kind of a student. Like, I think life is we're students here, and a student of remembering the essence of who we are, but also a student of like what has gone on in history before. Part of that is a study of our human soul, our human collective, and like taking the time to really understand that, because everybody wants to shape opinions about stuff, or maybe even facts, to fit their narrative versus like what actually truly happened. And we see that throughout human history. If you probably went back to, let's just use the Bible and ask, well, what happened to Jesus? There's probably a lot of different perspectives of what really went on there. So like, but how do you dig in and be willing to go down all those different rabbit holes to give yourself the biggest perspective versus like, I took one person's like book or whatever and said, that's the truth. And I think, again, it was kind of like what I was framing up earlier. We give all our power away when we idolize or say this person holds something, versus I think staying internally curious in a state of like seeking, like, okay, what is true, to help, I think, just for like better help you become informed in this lifetime.
I love that we've talked about this a lot, where we have many, many different spiritual teachers we've learned from, and it doesn't seem any one has all the answers. And I think early on, that's what I was looking for. And then I'd follow that person, through and through. But I think that we learn from everybody, like all of that makes us up. So we might have, Eckhart Tolle, where we gather a lot. I was just listening to him today on something. I was like, ooh, I feel like I need that. Or we might have this person or that person. And we have all of these tidbits that make us up, and we're able to draw on those tools that they have taught us to just help better ourselves, and then also be in better connection with other people. And instead of placing someone on a pedestal, and just last little thing I'll say is, like, as people, let's like embrace and get excited about, we are complex. Mm-hmm. It is not black and white. Very rarely, in some situations that pop into my mind, because I'm also a true crime watcher. It's pretty black and white, but in majority of what I'm talking about is that it's complex. And I would also like to encourage people to really embrace the fact, I rarely will say this is fact, but the fact that we are complex. And the majority, I would say the majority, but most situations are also complex. And you can have multiple ways of feeling about a situation. You don't have to choose one way about feeling about a situation and then ride or die that way into the sun. Like,
if I say I agree with this, I can't be with this. Like, we totally do that, where it's like, I can't be yes and we should be yes and. Like, yes, I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with that. Or we have a very, I think, yes, as human beings, we are very complex, very, very complex. And you're right, the human situations are very complex. And we all want to feel our voices heard. So why would we discount other people's voices? But I would really challenge the listeners of this to think about, if you want to cancel somebody else, are you really standing in your truth and making your voice heard in a positive and constructive way? Because I think what we forget is the universe is balancing and giving us feedback. So when we feel canceled, it's like, did I really stand in my truth and say what I needed to say, and completely detached? There's also an element of like, I'm just putting this out there, however that lands, and I'm detached, like I'm completely detached from the outcome. Like with this, I don't even know how many people are down. I don't know. I'm just putting it into the ethers going, hey, everybody, whoever's meant to listen is going to listen at the time they're meant to listen. And I'm completely detached from the outcome because I don't think I would have the conversations that I think we're meant to have if I was attached to how successful this is going to be.
Oh, yes. Yes. The other things I would say, Two Chicks and a Horror Flick podcast, that was exactly that. We showed up to have fun. We tried not to stress. We tried very hard to steer away from anything that was going to make it not enjoyable for us. And I think we grew very organically, a lot slower than say some other podcasts, but we had fun and we showed up and we did what we needed to do to share our voices and help it grow without being attached to any specific outcome.
Which is like, that's not our human condition. That's the ego. The ego wants to dictate and control versus like, how do we get to a state of oneness and surrender? Like, I think of that word comes up a lot because I think of a coaching, how we met is through this coaching program and like, just surrender. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, oh my God, what? What do you mean I need to let go? Like, I am letting go. I'm trying to just relax. Like, what? What's the problem? Like, I trust the universe. No, I don't. Like, it is like an daily journey to go, how do I step into a place of trust and a place of trust of self? So like when I thought about it, it's like, well, okay, ultimately, who do you have to trust here? Like the universe isn't some ether external force. Like you are that. So do you trust yourself? Like, do you trust who you are? Do you know who you are? Do you remember who you are? And can you step into that? And it's been a lot. Still a long journey. I'm going to be on this journey for a long time. Because I don't think there's a point where you just have it figured out. I think we're at essence like human beings. So we're in a constant state of learning and remembering.
I would think, when you have figured out, in air quotes for those who can't see me, this particular step, there's a next one and a next one. So now you've ascended past this particular stage you're in. But now when you're in this next stage, wow, so much to learn. And then that just keeps going. That's exciting for me because I like learning, I just mentioned. But yeah, I would see that this would be a forever thing. And I know we were talking about remembering and stepping into yourself and trusting. And that flow and surrender has been a struggle for me too. It's like, just surrender, just be in flow. Okay.
Yeah.
But so this is what that looked like for me. So when I was trying to just take my path of what I meant to do in this world, because I told you in the beginning, I really have a passion for for ensuring that people, not making them, but ensuring they feel heard, valued, not alone. And so how do I do that? How do I do that? So now anything I do, you guys, seriously, anything I do, I was doing yoga at one point. I felt so connected to my body after being abused. When I did yoga, I was like, I need to be a yoga instructor. This is what I meant to do. So then I started doing yoga instructor training. I need to do this for everybody. And then I just burnt out real quick because I'm like, okay, maybe I was just supposed to do yoga for myself. But but I did that over and over and over and over again. And it's finally, and it's not all better, but I feel like I'm better at it of, what? I don't know. I'm just going to show up. And it's exciting. I'm going to show up today with Erin and we're going to talk. And this is going to open up it's going to inflow, just flowing down. I'm flowed to you today. We're talking. And then after this energy that's created is going to flow somewhere else. I don't need to know where. I just need to keep showing up.
That's it. That is so powerful. And so I think real, like, I think there's an essence of that where it's like, I can so relate to that because I'm like you, I'm a learner. I like to take a lot of information in, whether that's books, podcasts. I mean, I am like thirsty, like feed me, feed me, feed me.
Yes.
And I think I've been on that very same path. And I think what I noticed for myself when I started to grasp, like, okay, what am I supposed to do? What is this supposed to look like? And I'm not in flow because I'm trying to grasp and control because I'm trying to go, okay, these are the steps I'm supposed to do, whoever made those up, whatever steps I'm talking about, what it's all, but it really is theoretical. It's like no one person has the answer of how to build a successful business. Like you can't take what somebody else has done and say, this is going to work for me because you have a unique soul blueprint. You have something that's energetically unique to you, as well as are you grasping or creating from a state of lack? And that was something that's really come through pronounced for me of like, when I step into something, am I stepping in from my highest form of creation of just being and I'm available? Or am I working like, oh my gosh, I've got to create this because if I don't do this, like what's going to happen? And if I don't, and this is what I'm supposed to do, and this is how it's supposed to look. And it's like, I haven't grasped at so many things that I attracted, although I learned a lot, like they all grew me from a state of fear or a state of lack versus like, okay, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? God, source, divine, however you want to engage and talk to that. And where am I supposed to be today? And what am I supposed to be doing? And really kind of detaching. We were kind of laughing before we started this about just time, but time merely is an illusion. We're all here on our own timelines, flowing at different speeds. You know, an hour for me is going to feel different for somebody else, you know? So I think what a powerful message. Like, just, I think so many people can relate to, but do you really tap into that? Because I think what I found that I would do, like when you were describing you and I was like relating, it was like, let me just go listen to something else. They'll tell me what to do because I can't figure this out. So what's like, versus I think now I can go internal and go, okay, what's my divine guidance for me? Not externalized to me, and not that those perspectives don't help me filter, but they're just something for me to go, what am I supposed to discern or learn from this, and not attach like there's some answer in here that's going to solve all my problems.
Yes. I love everything that you said. And I think for people who are like, okay, well, how do I follow myself? How do I know when to act, when not to act? How do I let go? I noticed for myself that when I am grasping, it's very uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's very uncomfortable, even if it's something I love doing. If I feel like I'm grasping or forcing it, I start to feel, I guess, agitated. I don't know if that's the best word, but it's very uncomfortable. And then I start to want to actually pull away from that thing. So that's how I notice if I'm grasping. Maybe it's anxiety. Oh, that's a big one, starts to happen. And then when you're in flow, it's just a lot more peaceful. You show up. So it's not like you just sit back and say, hey, all right, I'm surrendered to you. Let it come.
Go.
You have to act, right?
Yes,
you have to act on opportunities.
Yes, you still have to be. There's an essence of being that is the art of doing, but it's like, to your point, how does this feel? Like, does this feel easy and peaceful? Like, does this feel aligned? You know, I think for me too, I think is that engagement of like taking time. Like every one of us has a different level of discernment and aligning and tapping into our internal intuition and trust. And I think really trusting that. I think the times where I look back, it's like when I didn't trust myself and I kind of knew that in the moment. So to your point, had that angst, anxiety where it's like, oh,
Angst. Ooh, good. Yeah.
this isn't right, but I'm getting talked into something, or I'm doing something that's like I don't align with, or, it's like I just felt, and I should have honored the no, like
Mhm.
it's going to be created in the divine right time. People talk about divine timing, but there really is such a thing. Like, are you ready? What are you wanting to create? And are you available to receive that? And that's, I think, the really hard work is the internal game to really receive. Because you and I've talked a lot about, I think, a term that gets flipped around all the time now, like manifestation. I mean, shit, if we all followed what was out there, no offense to anybody putting stuff out there, but it's like we all should be freaking billionaires. Like if we all just were manifestors and just following like manifest, manifest, manifest. But like what I've started to find as I started to tune into myself is, are those programs, whatever, really like tuning you into the right frequency to receive? Versus, because I can think of like, I've manifested a lot. 99.99999% of my manifestations, air quotes, whatever they are like from a state of lack versus like a true, like knowing this, like this is what God source divine wants to give me. And my only job is to align to it. Like I just have to tune my frequency because it's already yours. You already have it in another dimension. If it's in your heart and a desire is of the Father. That's the like origins of that word. Like we have desires because God, source, divine, our Father, whoever I always feel like I'm over explaining. God puts this desire in you and you get to have that desire. Like you wouldn't have that if he didn't want to deliver it to you. And I think we also connotate desire as a bad thing. No, having a desire isn't bad. It's how do we align to receive that?
Yes, that's beautifully said.
No, but I think like I see this a lot, and I think we have so much. I think I recorded something on this, you guys, about just how much of our marketing or how we just even engage is all based on fear. It's not like, hey, how do you tap in and find your highest self and trust your knowing and know all the things you're supposed to know? And how do you develop what you already know? And we are supposed to work in partnership. I think there's absolutely people I know I'm meant to work with in this lifetime, partner within this lifetime, that we're going to add tremendous value and do tremendous things together, but not from a place of lack or trying to take something from somebody so that we're not in right relationship. It's like, here's me whole. What am I offering? What are they offering? And how do we go, oh, this is what we're meant to create together. And then you just start to feed off that energy, which I think is more positive than the fear base where it's like, oh, do you suck at business? Let me tell you how to market and get 500 clients in 2 days and you're going to make $5 million. And it's like, well, shit, if you could do that for every person that signed up with you, whoever, like we'd all be millionaires, and not everybody's frequency is matched to that, or their way of doing business is meant to be done that way. Like how do you tap into your innate intuition of like, this is how I feel that this is supposed to be done by me in this lifetime, that isn't, what's this person say? What's that person say? What's the book say? This is the way you're supposed to market. Be on Facebook 25 times a day. You're like, I don't want to do that. Then you got to tap into what's the right thing for you.
Yes, because what feels aligned with you is coming from you naturally is going to land and resonate with others way better than any formula or anything else. When you were talking about manifesting, Erin, has known me for a long time. And in the beginning, this idea of manifestation, because that's the course we met in, we're learning about manifesting, was I was really doing it. I was visualizing every day. I was doing what I needed to do. And now, years later, when I think of when people are talking about manifesting, it actually makes me feel it doesn't land right with me anymore. I'm not saying it's bad, not at all. I'm just saying I think, and I'm not saying people that are putting stuff out there about manifesting is bad. I think there are steps, right? There are people that are being, all of us are being called, and some people are being called, like you, Erin, to share visually with the world. And so some people might feel like, oh, I want to show, I feel pulled to show people how to manifest things in their lives in this way, or I feel pulled to do this or to do that. And so you're going to show up for a group of people who are aligned with that. And maybe that's the first seed they need. And so they take that course, or they take that, and then they learn something. There's something in there for them that they're supposed to learn. And then, you know what? There's something else. And then there's something else. And then there's something else. And then you grow, and that's how you grow and you learn. And now I think we're both at a place where, and again, I know I always feel like I need a precursor too. Harkening back to the very beginning when I was saying that people can be very mean on social media, I think we now have this, let me precursor this, let me preface this, which I'm trying to get rid of doing, but I just did it. So now I'm not saying where I am at is any more elevated than in any where anyone else is. I'm just saying this idea of now manifesting for me with the work I've done feels like what Erin was saying is coming from a place of lack. And now I feel, for example, oh, we really want to own a piece of land with a nice big home. It's kind of secluded, so we can just have this nice, beautiful home. We have pictures of the type of home that we would want, and I have them saved on Zillow. When I was talking to Erin the other day, I was thinking, what is it about that house? Because it's definitely not status. It's you can think it's about wealth, because I would need that to be able to have that home. But what that home represents to me is peace, quiet, a place where I can meditate, where I could study, where I could write, where we have land so we can step out and sit with our tea or coffee and just breathe in the air. This is what it means to me. This is what this particular house means to me. So really, I think that's just what I desire, is that environment. And I'm able to do that right now with the home I have with barely any backyard. I'm able to create that in my space right now. I don't have to sit here saying, okay, well, this is what I have, but this isn't really what I want. I have that now. And maybe in the future, I will have more land so I can walk or what have you. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think I went on a tangent, but hopefully that resonated.
Well, I think it's so important, because I think there's that element. What I love that you said was talking about, like, what's the feeling that you want, and having the gratitude, and what we talked about earlier, to just trust and surrender and allow. The universe wants to deliver that and more to you. And we are so constricted in the way it happens. Like, we think we're willing this into existence. And I think in our 3D world, we see so much of that. So much, I think, of like where it's like, oh, you see success. Because I think most people, if I were to generalize, are fixated on money. And I think of how much money they make, and money then supplying houses, what down the line. And I think when you expand into, it's like, I think the more you try to control it, because I think we think there's these examples externally that's like, these people have willed this into their existence. You probably could too. But what if you allowed, because the universe probably wants to give you so much more than what you're probably even receiving. And so um, I find it very, I'm on a intense journey. You and I talk a lot about that. And I think where I'm just trying to step in is how do I hold space and be, in terms I would use like a shamanic term is like a hollow bone. Like I'm just here to hold space for source to flow through me and work through me. And it isn't about Aaron and what I think I'm supposed to do. I'm just an available vessel for what I think source wants to deliver to the planet at this time based on I think what the earth needs. What does humanity need? Like, and if we really all tapped into there, man, we would have one powerhouse of a planet if we all kind of set ourselves aside and just allowed for what to come through to be in service, because everything, back to your earlier point, everything we do is our purpose. Like our ego likes to assign and attach, like, oh, that's not your purpose. This is your purpose. Like, and then you're like, I'm not doing my purpose. I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to look like this. And
This wasn't my purpose. Then what is it?
What
I invested all into this.
Yes. And I think, and somebody just tell me how to do it. Like somebody else is going to give me the answers. I feel called to doing this. And it's like, the journey is like you already are. It's like remembering that, there's an ease that's meant to happen in this lifetime that we just haven't quite figured out.
No, we have not. We're doing our best. We're trying.
We are doing our best. Hey, every day I wake up and just go, did I get a little bit was I a little bit more available? Was I conscious and showing up? Yeah. Again, is that available space, to allow conscious source divine to flow through and to get access onto this earth?
And I want to say for anybody who might be listening who feels like, oh my gosh, I'm so far away from even feeling anything like that, or maybe are deeply in depression or despair, or just are feeling that that's so far away from them. I just want you to know that it is absolutely possible. I want everyone to know it's possible for you to be experiencing exactly what Aaron is talking about, or what anybody shares about, feeling peace, feeling just feeling different than you're feeling. And I can tell you it's true, because the majority of my life, I was pretty much, I didn't want to live anymore because of what I experienced. And it was, piece by piece, healing, learning, educating myself, healing, trying new things. All of the sudden, one day I was like, wow, I'm feeling really good. I'm so far from where I was, and I never thought that was possible. So just let yourself be guided in the flow, but just try the thing, whatever the thing is. And you know what? Actually, if you're listening to this episode, that is the thing. You are listening to Aaron's podcast, and you are gathering information, and that's going into you. You're learning. There's going to be other teachers, other things, maybe you do meditation, maybe whatever it is. Maybe there's a passion. You're like, you know what? I used to like drawing. I'm going to draw. Whatever it is, allow yourself, and just take that one step at a time. And you'll be guided. Just trust that you will be guided.
I love the trust that you'll be guided, and it's staying present in the moment, because when I know I'm most at peace, it's when I just know I'm right here, right now, and I'm not thinking about the past or worried about the future. It's just the only moment I have is right now. And I always like to requalify my thoughts, like what's happening right in this moment that would be creating that lack or fear or anxiety, whatever's running through me. Like if I'm a human, so I have my moment, plenty of my moments. Like where it's like, okay, I have to like rewire that. I like notice that and just become an observer. Like the more I've just observed myself, the more I'm like, oh, okay, that's a learning opportunity for me. And to suspend the judgment. I think the hardest thing on this journey is, I think sometimes, or I've noticed for myself, is it's like, I know better. I should know that. I've studied, I've read, I've listened, I've gone to this class, I've gone to this class. I know better than that. Like, but it's like, it's not wired into me yet. And so it's like, I have to do the daily practices. And sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. Sometimes it works for 3 weeks. I'll do the same things. Other times I like, yeah, onto the next flow. Like, it's also kind of being detached to your point of allowing what is meant to come in at the right time, and to know that there is no be all end all. Like there's not one person or one thing. I mean, so far in my experience, that has solved like my problems, and I've just passed to the state of pure consciousness and was like, I've done it. I'm out. I'm out of this mess of the matrix that we are in. Like I just haven't experienced that yet. So I think people would be lying to you if they're telling you like, oh, I never spun out, or I never have anxiety, or I never like, you know, I think that that's more of a reality. I think it's, are you catching it? And not judging yourself. Because the other thing that, it becomes, I think, more and more nuanced. The longer you go on the journey, the things that happen are way more subtle, at least in mine. And so it's like, oh, I got to really tune in because
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I'm like, like, because it's like, oh, before that would like it would have been, but they just are, I don't even know how to describe it, but they're just way more subtle. Like you don't even know that they're at play.
Yes. Okay. This not judging yourself and everything Erin's saying is so true. All along my journey, I remember what first got me stepping towards the most of my healing is I started studying Tibetan Buddhism and Buddhist philosophies. And I remember, it's so much about observation and observing what disturbs your stream, right? So if I'm driving and all of a sudden I feel a disturbance within me and anger, like what happened? And when you observe that, oh, someone cut me off and I'm mad and I'm going to yell at them. But if you start observing that, like I'm mad because they cut me off and who do they think they are? Well, really, it wasn't right to cut me off, but I don't even know why. Maybe they just didn't see me. I mean, how many times have we all done that? I mean, gotta give people some grace, or maybe they're in a rush because there's an emergency, whatever the case is, but you start observing. And I remember I would do that and I would feel really great. And then there would be maybe minutes later, maybe an hour later, a day, I would lose my temper and then I would beat myself up. Oh, you know better than that. I feel like I'm taking 2 steps forward or 1 step forward and then 3 steps back. And oh, I'm never going to get this. And that's just not true. Just keep, oh, okay, I misstepped that time, but as long as you're acknowledging it, oh, you acknowledge that you did. How many people do you encounter in the world that doesn't even acknowledge that they have absolutely spun out of control at you and they still think they're right? They don't even realize it. So the fact that you realize, ooh, I don't want to respond that way. Okay, we'll just try again next time. And I promise you, years, maybe months, days, for me, it was years. I had a lot of work I needed to do. At one point I realized, oh, wow, that didn't even bother me like it does. I was able to really remain calm and be peaceful about it. And so, yeah, that's really important. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just remember, just keep every step forward and it'll work itself out.
Well, and I have to remember because my probably least conscious activity I participate in is driving. So
Yes.
I'm like, oh gosh, like, oh, love and light, love and light, love and light. But it's hard, so hard. And I think you're so spot on of like the universe keeps gifting you things over and over again to help you learn to become unattached and to not react. Oh, yep, that person cut me off. Love and light. I'm not there
Yes.
yet, but I'm like, I'm so
I
not there
still
yet.
have my stream is still disturbed.
I know.
So, okay, so
I'm
my
like,
stream still gets disturbed, but I'm able to switch it off real quick. So
I,
instead of becoming angry, I'm able to go, oh, all right, all right.
yeah, it's like, okay, okay. They probably, yeah. So I think that's hard. It's hard sometimes and I think sometimes we have unconscious patterns with, and so it's the universe, like going, how can you show up and just be in a state of love? When we think of like what's going on in the universe, when we're like, ugh, it's like the universe is just trying to always balance and correct itself and bring itself back into like pure harmony. So when we don't act in accordance with really God's law, which there's only one law, which is like we're supposed to love, we're supposed to be love and love. And to do that from a space that is equal to that of the mind of Christ or the mind and heart of Christ, of just pure unconditional love. And how do we go out into the world and give everybody that unconditional love that they just deserve because they're another part of source, part of the collective, part of the oneness. And so I think that's the path that I think we're all being asked to walk on. And I think sometimes, kind of to interweave with the conversation we were having earlier, I think a lot of times, and I think you and I've talked a little bit about this, but just where I really feel like we're in a fight for our divinity as a human race, to remember how divine that we are. That I think when we look at what goes on social media or the news or anything in the world, is really to keep us divided. Because if we remembered who we were, that we are divine beings, our DNA spells like God eternal within the body in all the ancient languages. Like, how amazing, like our DNA spells that we're God in this body. Like, wow. Like, you can't even make that up. There's no such thing as coincidences. There's no like, oh, that's, lucky. Like, no, it's all by perfect design. And so I think there's like the division that they try to create is to keep us separate when really we're all united. We're all human beings. Like, and to remember that, like, if we remembered that, it wouldn't be about race. It wouldn't be about religion. It wouldn't be about any of those things, because those would all dissolve away if we remembered our divine state of being. And so, of course, it plays into the narrative of them wanting to keep us talking about, well, you've got red hair and you've got blonde hair and she's got more advantages than you with the red hair. And, whatever the, case may be. It's like it's creating division, because if we were to come back to the natural essence and natural order of the world, we wouldn't have any division. So it's almost like people, I think, perpetuate it to kind of keep themselves busy or keep themselves in a job.
Yeah, because how amazing to be able to sit in a room with people from all different walks of life and just everyone learn from each other. Like
Mhm.
everyone approach the table from a place of my voice is valid, my lived experience is valid, and yours is just as valid as mine. The conversations we would have, the learning that we would do would be astounding.
It would
If when
be
you're talking,
magical.
yeah, if you're talking, I'm not sitting here going, oh, who does she think she is because of A, B, and C, or I know more about this, or whatever it is. If we're all just like, wow, You have so much to bring to the table. I want to learn from you. I want to learn what you have. And then you're like, whoa, Felicia, I want to learn from you. And if we were all doing that, it would be so amazing.
It would be so powerful. It would be,
Powerful.
we're connected. Like, I think there's an element that we don't realize, like in our unity and in that remembrance and in our magic, like that's how you transcend to states of nirvana, or you know what, there's a bunch of different, names out there in different religious terms, or how do you have heaven on earth? It's like when we set aside that we're different. I think Marianne Williams talks about this. The PowerPoint isn't that you're unique. The PowerPoint is you're just like everybody else, and yes, I'm a fractal experiencing the world a little bit different than you, but we're all equal to each other. And we've created these inequalities, not based on the humanity of who we are, but on these like arbitrary things that have nothing to do with the essence of our soul. And so, yeah, there's a lot of power of like, what would it be like if we could really hold space to sit down with everybody and appreciate everybody's viewpoint and not take anybody's viewpoint personally and mine's less than theirs. We're just here to share and grow and learn and expand and expand and expand and expand, because that's where the magic, I think, really happens.
I love that. Taking down the word unique. You're unique. You're unique. And we do have unique voices because it's from our own lived experiences. But I like that idea of taking away unique and making us all equal with different. We're all different. We have different lived experiences, and that's exciting because we can learn from one another versus I'm unique. It almost is this. And you guys, I talk to all the audience, everyone, you could totally disagree with this. This is just something that I'm feeling right now, is that that's almost a separation of I am more special than you because I'm unique, versus we all have a different lived experience, and all of these lived experiences are valid and valuable, and we have that to share and learn from each other.
Well, one of the analogies I love is Harry Potter. And I think just when you look at the like going to Hogwarts, and like they all have different patrons and they all have different magic and different skills, and like they're all magical. They just have differences of how that magic gets articulated. And that's what we're really here to be and do is like activate that magic. Like we are all magical beings with powers beyond what most of us probably can even conceive in this lifetime. When people are like, I can do this, it's like, yeah, they probably can. Like if you really believe that, absolutely. How was Jesus a healer? He was a mystic. Part of it is he only thought from a loving mind. But we absolutely have access to all the things that he can do if we like want to activate ourselves to that level. Because even thinking we can't do that creates separation from source. Like this one person can do it that we have recorded in human history, but okay, the rest of you, good luck. You're not getting there, and the whole power of like is that we can ascend to that same level. We all have opportunity to access that level of consciousness and to share that with the world. That's not unique to one person. He just was the example of how it was done. And again, that creates separations. He's special and we're separate. We're these lowly muggles, over here.
The muggles. I thought of the muggles. I was like, where's Aaron going to put the muggles?
Well, you can be that, or you have to be over here. Like you're just, but again, it creates all this separation, so that story, like I love those stories because they're always like giving us examples of like, the expansiveness, but then like they shine the light of like, what if every human was a Harry Potter? Or I think of the Avengers. It's like, holy crap, what could we really do in this lifetime if we all remembered that? Like, I think that's where the power lies, and I think the other thing is we all have uniqueness, but again, no one holds the magic or the power or is a healer that you yourself can't access. And I
Yes.
noticed that in this community a lot. And hopefully this is it. I'm having more of this conversation to, I think, shine a light and people to tap into their intuition, because it's like, is this work coming from light? And source, or is this work coming from I don't like the word, but where it's like some healers want to keep you wounded and in your shit versus like just remembering you're divine. Like, yes, that's a story. Yes, there's some probably healing work to do there. I'm not discounting any of that. So please hear my heart. But it's like, are people really wanting to see you step in and activate and just move on? Are they just there holding space to help you remember that you are the most powerful creature ever created and that they want to send you on their way and they hold no special knowing about anything? Because I think that was even the magic of Christ or Jesus, was it's not like he walked around and was like, hey, everybody, I know everything. Listen to me. Like if you listen to his teachings, he wasn't out doing that. And we have a lot of that created in the space I think you and I were talking about earlier, where it's like, hey, I figured it out, follow this recipe and you're going to do X, Y, or Z. And it's like, what if it's just about offering access for people to find that within themselves? Because I think that's the true magic, because it's devoid of you knowing something as a person. Like Aaron has to know something to share something in order to be of any value to anybody. No, I just need to be Aaron. Aaron has all the magic within her, whatever that is for any said person at any said time, whether in my consulting practice, my coaching practice, like,
Yes.
whatever lands with them. I don't have any, like, I don't have anything that you don't. I'm just here to hold enough space for you to access and remember it and be that vessel for source to come through to share that. And I think that's where we need to evolve to when we inner work as people, because then my ego's not in the way. So I'm not looking at, okay, what can Felicia give to me? How can Felicia and I work together? Because even right there, like we're not in right relationship with each other because I want to take something from you versus like I'm going to give and then I'm going to receive back from you. It's like a giving and receiving, not a give and a take. Like I'm going to take this from you. Who are you? What can you give me? Oh, this is how you and I can work together, da, 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 da. And it's like that again is our ego that wants to run all those programs. It's like, who are you? What are you going to do? But I think that's where we really have an opportunity to, I think, activate and elevate as a collective.
Yes. So let's show up for each other. And you can do that even if you have a service. Like Erin is really great at this. She's guided me through journeys and it was truly life-changing and amazing. But you do really good at that, is just offering space, and we are just showing up for each other. And even if you are, say, doing something for me, like doing that guided journey, you're also probably learning from me as I'm sharing, and there's just this reciprocation going on. So if you are out and there are people that are saying, hey, I'm receiving downloads to give you, and I'm sharing this information, that's fine if you're listening to this information and it's inspiring to you, but don't take that person and go, oh, they are the person that's receiving the message. This is not something I can access. I have to go to this person to get the message because they're special and they're the ones. Nope, you can get downloads too. You can. What would be ideal is if people didn't show up that way of I'm the one you need to come to in order to access this. You can't access it yourself. And instead, like I love, like instead showing up and saying, okay, whatever it is that you do, you are trying to help that person access it within themselves. And all the great teachers, I love working with you. There's Eckhart. He shows up and when he's having conversations with people, it's to help them access that within themselves. And it's just so awesome. So just yes, look out for that, because when you start to notice it, it's going to feel not aligned with what you're doing. I can't even stand things now that pop up. It used to be a phase of my life where it was like, turn your passion into a business, right? And at the stage of life that I was in, that was something I needed because I was grasping and I was searching because I wanted this specific type of life. Now, when I see that, it's like cringy to me. I'm like, not interested. It's not aligned with my energy. It served me in that particular period of my life. And now it's not, now it doesn't. And so just notice that within yourself. And I wanted to mention one last thing. I feel that within Judaism a lot, because you can find this even within your religions. You can find it in school and wherever you are, just be open to it. Because I know within Judaism, it's when I'm talking with the rabbi and he's because I take lessons several hours a week, every single week, and he'll be sharing something with me, right? He'll ask me what I think, and I'll go, yeah, that sounds good. And he'll be like, I didn't ask you what you thought about what I said. I want to know what you think, because you can disagree with me. If you agree with me, truly, truly, you agree with me, that's fine. I'm not telling you have to disagree, but it's all about bringing these voices and these ideas to the table and then sharing them. And that's what I feel a lot in my religion. And I just wanted to mention that because you're talking about Jesus and all of his teachings. And I absolutely agree. And it got me thinking, oh, wow, you know what? This is weaved, this questioning, and your voice is valid, and looking for answers and looking for deeper meanings and looking for deeper understanding is also weaved throughout Judaism. And I bet a lot of different religions and different spaces. And so if we could just all do more of that, that'd be amazing.
Well, I just think it's a question, like when you feel something, it's like like when something lands, I love what you said, because I laughed because I was in that phase of my life too. Now I was like, report, I can't, I like, please stop showing me these ads, or hide or whatever you push. Because it's like.
Erin's reporting everybody that has an ad. I'm just kidding.
Report,
not
report,
interested.
report. But I think part of it is like, I do feel like you got to be a little bit of a call out too, because it's like, are you trying to take something from somebody, and is your marketing being honest and truthful? And are you really delivering that for every person that signs up with you? And if you went to the vast majority of these people, and I'm not saying there's not ownership on the person to do whatever the work is associated with whatever said is being marketed, but it's like you're falsely advertising and you're making promises to people that you just can't. It's like, well, we had, 500 people show up, and 2 people in the whole time we've done this probably got the result that we say we're going to deliver to you. So like, tune into your discernment. Like, how does that feel? How does that land? And I think we do need to be a little bit, again, not to use all these analogies, but like Jesus in the temple flipping the tables with the tax collectors. There's a time where you also have to stand up for what's right. And I am a huge, huge, huge proponent, even like when I think about why do I want every human being on this planet to take back their God-given rights that are given to you by God. No government, no institution, nobody gives you your rights. Your rights are inalienable to your essence and to your being. And like, we have the power within ourselves to take that back. And when something's not right, why do we comply and continue to go along with it and not say anything versus like, no, I want to stand up for the truth. Like, whether it's what we were just talking, like, you're ripping people off, like, you're making money and you're telling people like, I made millions of dollars. Oh, but none of the people that I said to work that worked with me made anywhere near the type of money I made. Like, I would never feel good about that as a coach or as a consultant. It's like, my services should be an add-on to, and if they're not, you should absolutely fire me and move on and not pay me another dime. But like, I just think there's so many examples where it's like, at what point do we rise up and know that that is also unconditional love, to stand in truth? Truth is like doing what's right. And if it's not right, are we willing to stand up for that? Again, weaved in all our other topics of with all the right research, not just like going off one person's opinion, going, this is the truth. I'm going to die on my sword, when it's like, there's a big nuanced conversation to X, Y, or Z. But I think, how do we get into that? How do we take our power back as a human being and realize we own it all? Nobody else has dominion over that.
I think there's also power in just, you know what, this is how I'm feeling about this, but I'm not sure what the truth is. But this is how this situation is making me feel. That's fine, because I know I was saying a lot about research, do your research. Most definitely, I'm not backing down on that. Look into it no matter what it is. Because if you think about it, if you are learning, let's say you're a particular religion, and you are taught something from a very young age. This could really be applicable to any religion. And so you just blindly follow that. You do that when you're a kid because your family is teaching you. And then as you grow up, something might not feel right. Or maybe you're sharing something and others are challenging you. So then you just share even harder because you're just like, no, this is right. A couple things are going to happen. If you start going, I wonder, I'm going to find out more about that. And you start researching that, and you're going to find, personally, I think only good can come from this, because either you are going to find that, oh, this is why, and it strengthens your commitment to whatever it is that you were sharing, but you're also able to share that with other people more eloquently. You're going to be able to contribute to the conversation in a better way because you have that knowledge. Or maybe you'll find out, whoa, I was wrong and I don't like this. That's wonderful, because now you can inspire change. You can decide, wow, I don't want to keep saying this particular thing because I actually don't align with that. And that's okay. That's just making you even more powerful in the good use of the word power, right? Power is beautiful, and it could be very beautiful. I also wanted to say just one thing what you were mentioning about money, because I know you and I both had struggled with this in the past, and I know I did as well. You should not feel bad about making money. This is, everybody, it has the right to have money and make money. And if your special thing in the world is, you shouldn't feel bad about making money off of doing that special thing. But that's the thing. If you are doing something only to make money, it's not really coming from your passion or anything. You're just like, ooh, I see that this is a trend. I can make money doing this. And now you're just trying to, say, oh yeah, you can I'm going to make money. And you're just meeting with people because you just want to make this money. That is coming from the space that Erin's talking about. That is not contributing to the betterment of the world. And it's not really contributing to yourself. But if you're like, I'm really love doing this, I don't know, cooking, I love it. So I'm just going to show up and I'm going to share this, and you let yourself be guided, that money will come to you. Like, right, if you're a coach, you should absolutely charge for your services and your time, or else you're not going to be able to do it full time. You're not going to be able to do it for anybody because, we got to pay rent. We got to do these things. Just make sure that it's coming from a place where you really want to be there for that other person and show up for that person.
Well, and I think you said it really, really well. It's like, am I in right relationship with myself? So am I really, truly aligned with this? Like, does this feel true to who I am? And am I doing it in service, like in giving, like to then receive? That's how you receive the money. But I think you have to be in right relationship, not in deficit or lack. And I can think this is profound. This pervades everywhere, everything. Like we can feel when it's like, oh God, they want my money. Like they're not just like, oh, what's best for you? Even if you're just out shopping, and maybe it's clothing or whatever, like are people really listening and perceiving and just being in service and trusting that, you always hear the stories when I detached and didn't care what my sales were for the day. Those were my best sales days versus like, oh my God, I got to make a sale today. And it's like nobody bought, because it's again, like, what's that energy? Am I in resistance? Am I creating the wall and the barrier? Am I receiving in what wants to come through? And there's ease when you're just in service of versus I'm in lack and I better constrict down or I better make this happen. Or I used to feel a lot of that. And I really felt that in my previous careers in corporate America around just like sales goals and numbers. And it's like, like, again, I don't want to be like just willy-nilly, like leave it to the world. But I think it's like, how do you train and get the energy and the vibe right in your establishment where people want to show up for that? Like you go to a place and you're like, oh, the vibe feels off. And it's like, yeah, that's real. Energy is real. People can pick up and perceive that. So do you have happy employees? Do you have engaged people? I mean, this stems into every aspect of life. Do we really just show up in service to and are engaged in that way and completely detached from the outcome? Because I think of like servers, like you could probably make 3-4 times as many tips when you're just like, I'm just here and I love to help people and I want to talk to them. And people are like, oh, you're so amazing. Thank you. What do you want to do? You want to leave them a big tip? Because it was such a good experience. Like, so versus like, I better get me $100 off this table. Like, like you can feel that. And so it's like, how do we, and I watch it in the other industry I play in, like real estate. It's like, as an agent, it's like, you're really to be a facilitator and not to be attached to the commission or the outcome. You're just in service of the client. And you have to trust that all the right money and clients and stuff is going to flow in if you're just in service to the whole.
Yes. And I want to say, because I know there's people listening going, what the heck? Okay. I was in retail. Anyone who knows me that's listening to this, they're like, oh yeah, they're in retail with me. I know what that's like. And at the end of the day, you do whatever you would like. What I really love talking with Erin, or why I like talking with Erin, is because everything that she's sharing or that we're sharing right now is just to plant the seed. It's just to contribute to the conversation. It's just to give you an idea. There are going to be days when you go in and you're a server and you do not want to serve anyone. That's a hard job and it is draining, and I totally get it. So we're not trying to diminish any of the stress and the pain, not at all. It's just to give some other ideas of maybe how to approach your work or your projects, different things to inspire. Because I know my husband is in sales and he is very passionate about the customer and he does really well in sales, but he does not lie. He does not cheat. He does not sell people on things that they aren't going to benefit them. And he will have managers going, you could have sold him on that. And he's like, they absolutely didn't need it and would have canceled it. I'm not going to do that. Well, he had some of the top sales and
Mhm.
he had the most customer retention because you can. And he also thrives on making sales goals. It's exciting for him, the competition. So you can have both. You can
You
have the marriage of both.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
think I loved how you kind of, it's about that energy power. And we all have it. There are days where I show up and it's like, I'm an ease and fun. This is great. And I have other constricted. And it's like there is a nuanced difference. And it's like just, I think, bringing awareness to that, because when you are in that state, look at what you're receiving. And then,
Yes.
not to make funny of our other conversation, but I manifested that. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, you just relaxed and let go and allowed it to come in, which, and I think, again, it's just how are we in allowance? And I think for me, I feel very passionate about how do we create space for people to show up their best, whether it's at work,
Oh, yeah.
every day. I think of being a leader, currently and in my past lives. It's like, if I were to think about it again, like, how do I create an environment to activate people to their highest and best selves for the day? Because I can think back of many, many a times, and I think a lot of the drama I experienced in all my corporate jobs, and I experienced it in my daily life too. So nothing to pointed towards corporate at all. But it's like, if I had to go back, like, none of that stuff was really important. Like, creating an environment that made people, you know, really shine. And I think the other lesson I have now is like, how do the interactions, whether it's with customers, consumers, or your fellow coworkers, are really to teach and guide and elevate you. And how can you use that versus, like, I think of, some of the stuff I used to do, not so proud of, but I atoned for, when I would think about the amount of drama or gossip I'd allow to perpetuate. And it was like, really, it didn't need any of that emotional charge.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That
Like,
even harkens back to what we were talking about, like with disturbing the stream and getting mad when you're at the end of the day, you're like, well, I didn't really need to get that upset, right? And you're so right with in my day job career, I've always been within customer experience and learning experience professional. Customer experience is a massive passion of mine, massive. And in any role I do corporately, I'm striving to make sure the customer has the best experience. And if the company is like what you're saying, Erin, and they're providing that space so that their employees can be the best they can, they're going to deliver the best on what they're doing, which is going to be ultimately the most wonderful customer experience. And you could do that in any situation. I remember being in retail and being young single mom of two toddlers going through a horrible divorce. And it was so emotional. I had to show up and show people. Anyone in makeup retail, because this was my history, is going to laugh at this. 100 different red lipsticks to find the exact red that the person needs. And believe me, I have 100 red lipsticks. So this is an important thing. And I'm going through all of this emotionally. And this one person, I have to take around the store for an hour showing them 100 red lipsticks. But the thing is, no matter what I'm going through, that is not that person's fault.
mhm.
They came in, they're excited to find the right red lipstick for whatever reason. They want it to be the perfect red. And I have the opportunity to either ruin their day because I'm having a hard time in my life, or really give them a wonderful experience and really brighten their day. so that
Well,
I mean, that's my option.
and how do you feed off what their energy is? How do you receive that gift of they're excited and they're happy? Because they're also gifting that to you. Like, well, I think we've also created this scenario of customer service being a one-way street. Like it's from the employee's business to the consumer, but it's like, how is that person when they're coming in? And we have it too when we have the negative customer on the flip side. And to your
Yeah.
point, how do you give that positive energy to change their day and maybe take the neutral, help them kind of neutralize their charge? Maybe they got cut off in the parking garage or wherever, before they came in. But I think people always appreciate when it's like, oh, thank you. Like, thank you for not reacting to my negativity with more negativity. Like, and every interaction is a gift. Like
Yeah.
every interaction is a gift with every human being that we have on any
Yeah,
given
even
day.
if oh yes. Okay. So, and if any of you are thinking, oh wow, they think they're so enlightened. Oh no, my stream gets super disturbed. So today I was literally, okay, my husband and I had went to go drop off something at the dry cleaners. And as we were driving, a truck pulled out right in front of us out of the parking spot. So we slammed on our brakes, and I guess two women were walking out, and so they came around our car and they're like, why the hell did you stop in front of us and get in our way? And I just looked at them and I immediately felt mad, and I immediately reacted, and I was like, so we didn't hit the truck. The world doesn't revolve around you. Okay, this just happened yesterday, guys. So yeah, boom, it just hit me. So today I was listening to Eckhart Tolle, and I was watching a video. It just popped up. So maybe I needed to see that from the universe. It popped up in my YouTube, and it was about reactions. And a woman was talking about how she reacts with anger when her kids are misbehaving, and it seems like she can't control it. And so Eckhart was guiding her through how to be aware of that, and to heal those, or to better control your reactions. I have no idea why I'm telling you this, but it's great. And
I love this is how our conversations.
I don't even know.
I love it. Well, I'll link it in the notes for the episode, so
Perfect.
we can.
I'll share it with. Oh, yes. I shared it with you, Erin.
Yeah,
today.
you did. Yeah, so we'll share that, because again, this isn't like, oh, Erin has all the original, fully, like, this is like just about like what comes through and what is meant to share, learning, and not like we're going to diagnose this episode or anything, but it's just like, oh, if that hits you, go listen to that. He is an incredible teacher. He is probably the closest thing I've seen devoid of ego, where that man just talks from, yeah, you can just tell a level of consciousness that's kind of like, huh, yeah, like there is no, if you listen to him, you're kind of like, wow, there's like no charge.
No judgment.
There's no
charge, no judgment. He was like, if you're around irritating people like your kids, then, and and everyone laughed, because there was that's what I was saying. So if you're listening to us thinking like, oh, we think we have it all figured out, absolutely not. But I can say I responded in that way, and immediately the thought went into my head like, oh, I didn't really need to respond in that way, but I still felt it in my heart. I felt very charged still. And so then I was like, you know what? I want to seek out some answers on maybe how I can do better in the future. Is there more of those reactions in me? 100%. But
yes.
at least
that's
I listened to Eckhart, and I learned some stuff from him, and I am going to give it a try. And so,
oh, I can't wait to. Yeah. Well, we'll come back on and talk about all the reactions we've had to all the various people. Especially, I do that a little bit. I'm like, oh, and then it's like, okay, well, maybe. And then sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's so funny, but you're right. Like, I don't honestly have anything figured out. All I know what I have figured out is that I'm on a journey back to myself. And that every person along the journey is just is a teacher, is somebody for me to learn from, for me to grow from. And I by no means have any answers that anybody else has at like access to, you know, like I think that's truly the magic. Like, because it's like I actually don't have it figured out, and I don't know if I'm supposed to have it figured out. But what I can tell you is just the experiences that I've had and what I've
Yes, you brought
learned
it all
from
back,
them.
Erin. I can always count on you for that. That's why I went on that tangent, because I was thinking you had mentioned um interacting with people, and that those interactions are a gift. And it made me think of negative interactions as well are a gift, because you can learn. I did all of that, by the way, in my head, and then decided to just share this laundromat story with you. But thanks for going on the journey with me. But that's where
No.
that came from. And I also wanted to share that because I know it's very important to Erin when she was talking about doing this podcast, and me as well. I know when I first started, I just wanted to share, like, because I just want to inspire, but I know it's very important for you that people know we want to be real.
Yes.
And that came back to my head of like, oh, am I just saying, oh, it's all going to be okay? And it's the kind of what I go into, because I also, as many people have experienced so much pain and strife, we all have, that I want my immediate reactions tell everybody it's going to be okay. There's a way out.
But
Make it better.
but it also is like, if I think of like all my moments, like, and if I just get presenced in the now, everything is okay. You know,
Yes, it
again, like
is.
we give it a lot of charge and and that doesn't disqualify it. But I think there's also a piece too where we get to remove that, and we don't have to keep running that story. And I think when I
Yes.
remove the charge, or when I left myself off the hook, or when I remove the judgments of myself and forgive myself, that's when the transformation really happens. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like, and that's usually who you have to forgive is yourself. It's not the other person. Yes, maybe they wronged you. Yes, they may have done something. And, you know, that happens in our world. But a lot of times, what I've found in my own lessons and my own learning is like really the person that I leave hanging up on the cross, like suffering, is myself. Like it's like that
Mhm.
person's moved on and they have not a second thought about that. So when are you going to let yourself off and move on? And it's like that's a powerful lesson. And I remember learning that from my own coach at one point when I was going through my divorce, and I was talking about you know, feeling all this lack of respect, and he pointed out to me, he's like, well, how have you not respected yourself? It was like the biggest gut punch, but it was like, yeah, the person, not that I'm even the maddest at, the person that I had to do the most healing work with was me, because it
Yeah.
was like I had to forgive myself for not standing up for what I knew was right. And it's uncomfortable. Like, I think we all, you know, again, like all of this is full circle and all intertwined. It's even like not speaking up. It's like, well, that fear, you know, even that energy of people pleasing, like how many of us
Mhm.
really can stand in our truth and just say what we think and hold that space and be okay with how that lands with the other person, and know that, you know what, if that doesn't land well with them, that's not on you, that's on them. You know, like how that's
Mhm.
received. Did I do it from a loving place? Did I do it from, you know, my highest self? And if I know that I've acted from that and it's made somebody else upset or agitated, like I have to be okay with that uncomfortability, but not go along. Like I know that's one thing I'm really actively working on healing is that energy of people pleasing, because it's like I want to do this because they'll like me, or this will keep the peace, or this is easier. And it's like, you know, is that really your truth? And if it's not, then you've got to be willing to say something or do something or move beyond and be in action of that, and not just
Yes.
stay, because I think that's you're selling yourself out when you do that.
Yes. And I want to share I'm exactly in the same space. I feel everything, nothing I say is coming from a place, and I know this deep, deep inside, nothing I say is coming from a place where I want someone else to feel bad about themselves, or if I've said something where somebody feels offended, I have no idea, because this is not my intention. And I think that still holds me back. It's a scary thing.
Mhm.
Even knowing that the way other people will receive it still is something I'm working on, is making it, or makes me worried, makes me nervous still. And I think that's why I hold myself back from sharing some things that are on my mind, is because of that, for sure. Something I need to work on.
I think it's probably one of the, because it's like you're kind of also taught, like, just get along, just go with the flow. Go with the flow means going with your essence of yourself, not to keep the peace. We're kind of even taught that in our families, just keep the peace. You're like, I can't stand that. And why am I going to keep like tolerating that and not like articulating that, even if it makes the group, the family a little uncomfortable, you can probably tell I'm a little bit of a rebel. I'm a redhead, and not that I'd say I'm the black sheep of that, but I've always had that essence to myself, and to remember that, I think, as an adult, because I think we're kind of trained out of it through various things. I think that's our essence as a kid. I was very much like, if they said no, I said yes. If they said go slow, I said, how fast can I go? Like, I was like, no, you're not telling me a damn thing. I am doing what I want to do. And not like but just in knowing that innate sense of how like wild and magical we were. And so I think as adults, you're kind of trained out not to say that, or, even at work, it's like, I don't want to say that because that'll upset the boss. And it's like, it just needs to be said. Are you saying it from a place of love? Maybe he hasn't thought about that point of view or whatever, like, like where it's just like, I'll keep the peace, I'll just agree. And you're like, the whole time you're like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. Let's all raise our hands. I've done that in meetings where I'm like, what are we doing? Like, but did I have the, courage to speak up and not like, that's the dumbest thing that I ever heard. But, I have a few questions, or I'm curious around a few things, and really engaged in a dialogue to not just comply, but either to get alignment and understanding, or, maybe you gave them some insights of like, oh, I never thought of it from that perspective. And then are they open to even receiving that?
Yeah. If you think, and if they're not, that's not on you. Right.
Exactly.
But if you think about the people that inspire you the most, they're probably people that spoke up, and that whether either way, either a real powerful voice, a controversial voice, or a peaceful voice, whatever it is, they're people that spoke up, that shared. They're not ones that were just like, oh, well, I don't want to ruffle any feathers, so I'm just going to be, we don't know who those people are because we don't hear from them.
No, we don't. Or which you're right. But it's like, we all should be having those activated voices and to be unconcerned with how that lands. Cause I think those are the, when I think of like Eckhart Tolle, he's just sharing like how that lands with people. You can just, and he comes from such a state of love, but he doesn't, how that lands on people, he's not concerned with that. So it's like, how
just that comment I was saying where he was like, when you're around irritating people like your kids, and everyone giggled, and then they just kept going, because he knew he was not saying kids are irritating, your kids are irritating. He knew it, so he didn't even stop and go, oh, not that I'm saying your kids are irritating, right? No, he just, everyone laughed, so he kind of did a little giggle, and he just continued on, where I know myself even might have went, not that your kids are irritating, no, I'm not saying, he wasn't worried about the slew of moms who maybe are going to totally bash him for saying that kids were irritating. Like he wasn't giving any of that. He was just delivering the message.
Yep. It's like, yep. And we kind of all know that kids can be irritating. So,
Exactly. Let's be honest. Come
let's
on.
let's go. They are. Let's be, doesn't mean I don't love them unconditionally, but it's like, yep, they are my greatest teacher, and they're irritating because they're your greatest teacher. When I think of like, when are my kids here? Because they're shining a light into me of where I need to grow the most as a mom. Not because they're necessary, like I want to make it about their behavior, but it's like, okay, I have to change my conversation with them about this behavior.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Eckhart he said something very similar of how the child is, if the way the child is behaving is causing you to react this way, it's just like we were saying earlier, a gift to understand ourselves deeper.
Yeah, I will tell you,
this is coming from
families, and I did not mean to cut you off, I think are the most intensive relationships and our deepest soul contracts, and the people that, that grow us the most. When I think of, my relationship with my mom, or, my kids, or whomever, like it can get so intense. And I know that's when I'm probably the most unconscious and the most triggered, kind of like driving. Not that it, but again, I've started to become very aware of it. Where it's
I'm sorry, I cut you off. I just wanted to say, I love talking with you. And I think what we were talking about in the very beginning about flow, and I was saying, yep, I just showed up. You asked me to be on your podcast. I was honored. I showed up. And our conversation, I just wanted to tell you, I have learned so much. Like you'll see me sometimes glancing up because some of the things that everything that you were saying, but there's specific messages I feel like I needed to hear around this, because I've been struggling with what's happening in the world, and that making me feel very sad or very angry when talking about, relationships with family, and different things came to mind. And you just reminded me about how I shouldn't be scared of these feelings that are being brought up within me. I should reflect on them, and I should see, what is it that I am needing to learn? How can I grow from this? How can I show up better in the world for my kids, my family, my community, the world in general, and really take the opportunity to learn from these times that have been very difficult. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Such an honor. I just share what's coming through, and I share from my perspective, and not that, again, like I have it figured out, or go to this thing and it'll solve your relationship with your mom or whatever, or your kids, or it's just, I would be, I think, dishonest if it wasn't like, yeah, this is kind of who I am, and this is what I'm challenged with. And we're all on this journey together, because I got as much, if not more, from you in this conversation about just, I think, how to look at something or receive something or talk about something differently. And it just continuously elevates me. And so I just want to continuously invite people into this dialogue. I want you to listen. I want you to engage. If you want to be on, message me. This is a podcast, not to get of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's just about us having these real conversations, and to move us forward as a human collective. And I think that's what's on my heart. And I think every person has something to add to the conversation. I think everybody has an important voice. And I think we need to step up and step out and feel heard, and go with the flow, and release any attachment or judgment or shame that we have about it. And just so, what I said, what I felt I needed to say that was on my heart, and I can I can be at peace with that. And wherever that goes and wherever that flows, you just let the ethers and the energies take that and go from there. And so again, I feel very called to just be space, to activate space, to create space for the conversations that I think move humanity forward, and not to have, you're an expert and I'm an expert and it's like we're both right where we're supposed to be on this journey. And I think that's what's so beautiful about our friendship, but about this conversation. So I don't think this is the last time Felicia's going to be on.
Ooh, I hope not. I passed the test.
She's
Unless
coming
you get
back.
feedback. If no one likes me, I hope
No,
that's
I'll
not
be
the
like,
case.
come back more. But like I said, I want people to just access that voice, and to know that you have a voice, and that our way forward is through, and that we all need to really start to stand in that. And like I said, I'm just here to activate and hold space. So it was such an honor to spend this time with you.
It was an honor to spend it with you as well. Thank you so much for inviting me. And if anybody is curious, wants to follow my journey, or interested in what I'm doing, or hearing more of my voice, or whatever it is, I think Instagram is the best place to find me, at Felicia Dawn Conner. So FELICIA Dawn, DAWN, and Conner with an E, CONNER. I just, I'm writing, I have a podcast, I share inspiration. One of the most joyful things is when I see a message in my little inbox, and I take a look and someone's like, "Thank you for sharing that. It really meant a lot to me." And I'm just like, "Oh, that means a lot to me, that it meant a lot to you."
Well,
I
it's
just
so
love
reciprocal.
engaging.
Well, and I
Yes.
think we're honoring each other in that. And it's even like when you say really nice things back to me, which it's just, there's so much gratitude of just, I think it's the confirmation of, oh, like for me, it's like, that's the way I want to show up. And so that is being received into the world. And so take those compliments, go back and read them 15 million times. Do what you got. But I think that's so important in this conversation. So Felicia will be tagged in this episode, all her information, where to find her, how to follow her, where to contact her. We're going to share, because this is
Yes.
about activating and sharing the love. So tune
Creating
in.
a compassionate world. And I want to be there for all of you too. If you want to share your voices, I want to be there for you for that.
So yes, reach out, be in touch, tune into the next episode, and we'll see you on the other side.